Newsfeed Now. Coronavirus facts, not fear, begins now.
Good Thursday. Welcome into Newsfeed Now. I am Aaron Nolan. Big day today here on Newsfeed Now. We're heading to Michigan where protests are expected to continue. We have talked about that on this program several times. Those protests are happening right now. We're going to talk about that here in a few minutes. Let's jump right into the latest numbers. In the U.S., there are nearly 1.4 million cases and more than 84,000 people have died from the virus. More than 4.3 million cases of the virus have been recorded worldwide, according to Johns Hopkins University. Millions of Americans are relying on unemployment benefits for their livelihoods after losing their jobs. Another 3 million people filed initial unemployment claims last week. That brings the total number of first-time claims to 36.5 million since mid-March. Tyson Foods says it is cutting prices on some of its meat products, but it's only for the rest of this week. From now until Saturday, the company will discount its meat by 20 to 30%, including chuck and round roast. The cost of groceries overall has increased by 2.5% since last month. Let's go to those developing news. We're going to go to detecting the... Okay, Matt, you got to tell me these things. Detecting the earliest signs of COVID-19. There's an app for that. You heard that right. Here's Dina Bear with an explanation.
Just like ships have sonar systems on board to detect approaching obstacles, our lungs and airways can also send signals of distress through what's called reflective sound waves.
Depending on how much the airway has been changed, this will basically change the pattern of the reflected signal, and such pattern changes can be measured by our speakers and the phone's computing power.
Using standard tools found on a smartphone, the speaker and microphone, Dr. Wei Gao and his team at the University of Pittsburgh developed a mobile COVID-19 sensing system.
People can use this as a daily, convenient, and non-invasive tool for self-evaluation and self-diagnosis.
Here's how the system works. Users breathe into an attachable mouthpiece, generating sound waves that travel through the airways to the lungs. When they reach an obstruction, like inflammation, mucus, or narrowing, reflective acoustic signals bounce back.
If you have a certain problem in the lung, there could be certain inflammations which will narrow the airways, and thus narrow the airways will produce extra reflections. So the reflected sound will be captured by our microphone and be analyzed.
The non-invasive at-home monitoring system is not designed to replace standard viral testing. Instead, the technology may help reduce the burden on the public health system, particularly when it comes to testing.
The United States has done a huge number of tests, but essentially a very large portion of such tests eventually comes out to be negative. This technique can never be a direct replacement of the clinical diagnosis.
Dr. Gao and his colleagues are still in the pilot phase. They've developed a prototype which includes a 3D printed trachea so they can tweak the system in the lab. Next up, testing it out on humans and ultimately patients in the hospital.
We're very happy that we find out this opportunity which could possibly contribute to the fight against the virus.
Turning to Ohio, a 68-year-old man is recovering and he believes love letters written from his wife and read to him by nurses while he was in a medically induced coma saved his life. Here's Peggy Gallic.
Love letters from your daddy.
Dan Rice is emotional as he holds the book of love letters his wife Beth wrote to him when he was in the hospital for more than 45 days with COVID-19.
Here's letters starting all the way from March 29th. All the way through. There's letters every day.
He says these letters helped save his life.
I think it's amazing that I was on a ventilator and heard nothing, seen nothing, and so on. But I heard them right there read those letters to me.
His wife Beth says writing the letters helped her communicate with the love of her life since she wasn't allowed to be next to him.
On a ventilator, I'm thinking I have no way of contacting him. So I just started writing letters.
Dan spent several weeks in a medically induced coma here at Firelands Regional Medical Center in Sandusky. He was admitted in March after being diagnosed with COVID-19.
It's a horrible sickness, and it damages you.
He was just released last week. His wife was with him as the medical staff clapped and cheered as he left the hospital and returned to his home in Fremont.
I believe God worked us all out the way it was supposed to go.
Dan and Beth say they are thankful to God, the medical staff, and especially the nurses who read him the letters and saved every one. They put all the letters in this binder and gave it to Dan as a gift.
They were crying because they were so happy that I succeeded. But you know what? It was only through God and through their help and their positive input that helped me get through this sickness.
In Sandusky, Peggy Gallic, Fox 8 News.
Peggy joins us now from Cleveland. Peggy, what an interesting love story. Have you been able to see any of these love letters, and what was in them?
Basically, I did get to see a couple of the letters, and I have to tell you, this is just one of my favorite stories that I've ever done. And most of the letters were just basically, you know, reassurance that, you know, I love you, your family loves you, we know you're going to get through this. You know, some details of kind of what they've done in the past and family vacations and just their love together over the years.
When you look at something like this, as we talk about vaccines and we talk about treatments, it seems like sometimes matters of the heart can affect everything in the body.
Exactly, you know, and that's what he was saying. You know, he was getting great treatment at the hospital there at Firelands Regional Medical Center in Sandusky, but what got him, what he remembers is that love got through that darkness. When he couldn't remember anything else, somehow that love got through and helped him get better.
Peggy, thank you so much. Appreciate you taking the time. Turning to Kansas City, Missouri, a cruise ship performer is home after 2 months he'll never forget. Here's Sheree Honeycutt.
Willis White is no stranger to the stage. The singer who's performed on Broadway now travels the world with Princess Cruises. At the end of February, his newest adventure took an unexpected turn.
Yeah, it's a little bit of being surreal because you can't believe the entire world is shutting down.
White says around March 10th, passengers were able to disembark the ship, but White and other employees stayed on board.
I did not feel unsafe on my particular vessel. It was, I felt safe, healthy, provided for, and I can say that unequivocally.
He says there was anxiety, but he used his time to work on projects. For 2 months, he waited for the ability to come home. He finally disembarked May 9th.
There was an element of certainty, and, you know, that first time when I actually got on soil, touching the ground, a sense of finality of like, okay, it's time to adjust to the new normal.
White says he's grateful to be back in Kansas City, but is thinking of his coworkers who are still waiting to come home.
I just want to tell them to stay encouraged. I hope if anyone who has family members out there that are still waiting, that possibly, you know, that they reach out to them. And, you know, it does mean a lot to have that sense of connection.
White says he believes the cruise industry will adjust and hopes getting back to entertaining travelers soon.
We're all trying to make it through this. Just sending a lot of love to anybody who just may be struggling, even here domestically, as we are practicing the social distance, that we're in this together.
Sheree Honeycutt, Fox 4 News.
Sheree joins us from Kansas City. What another cool story you've got here, Sheree, talking about this performer. How long was he out to sea, and how long did he have to wait there until he was able to get onto soil?
So he got on the boat the last day of February on the 29th, and he did not get off the boat until May 9th. So that is just a crazy amount of time, over 2 months that he was on this ship. Now they disembarked everybody around mid-March. So he had been on that boat isolated with just the employees for about 2 months.
So he said that there are other people still on board. Who is on board? How long will they have to stay there?
So that's a really interesting question. The people that are still on board are a variety of people. People who work in the cruise industry come from all over the world. So you're dealing with different countries dealing with this pandemic and how they're going to get them home, what their travel issues are. You know, some people, I know there was one person from the Ukraine, different areas all over the world just trying to get home, and they're stuck there on different ships across the world.
All right, Sheree, thanks so much. Appreciate you taking the time. An Arkansas music venue is still selling tickets for a concert despite an order from the state to stop. Governor Asa Hutchinson has even threatened to take legal action if the show goes on. Here's Lauren Krakow with more.
Travis McCready of Bishop Gunn is set to take the stage at Temple Live in Fort Smith on Friday. 3 days before the state allows indoor venues to reopen.
I would think that common sense would prevail and they will follow the direction of the cease and desist order.
On Tuesday, Governor Asa Hutchinson announced the Department of Health will take legal action against the River Valley venue if it decides to move forward with the concert.
The fundamental point is that they knew in advance that this was the target date. They've proceeded on with this in violation of the directive.
On Wednesday, Mike Brown with Temple Live held a press conference in response to the governor's cease and desist warning.
Travis McCready was playing music at a church 2 blocks from here on Friday. Would it be permitted?
Brown asked questions like, would there be any greater public health risk for people in attendance at a church event than at Temple Live's concert? And if so, where's the scientific proof?
We're not trying to be difficult. We just want to be treated fairly.
All of them were directed to Arkansas Department of Health's Dr. Nate Smith.
Obviously, a place of worship is different than a concert hall. There's some similarities, but there are also some significant differences.
We asked Brown for comment on Smith's response.
I was just calling to see if we could do a follow-up interview today.
No, not today. Everything will be addressed tomorrow at 1.
He declined. Stay with Fox 24 News as we continue to follow this story. In Fort Smith, Lauren Krakow, Fox 24 News.
All right, Lauren now joins us live from Fayetteville, Arkansas, very close to Fort Smith, Arkansas, about an hour away. Interesting stuff here. We know that there's a press conference today. Lauren, what do we expect to come out of that?
Yeah, so like he mentioned on the phone call, there's a presser today at 1, and we're going to be up there to hear what he has to say. We asked him a lot of questions yesterday, and so I really don't know what we're going to hear. But the concert is scheduled for Friday, so today will be kind of the make or break if the show goes on.
Obviously, there's a line in the sand that was drawn here between the performer, between the venue, and between the state of Arkansas. It seems like this is a battle that may wage on.
Yeah, I know. Like I said, tomorrow is supposed to be the concert or not, and I know that we did a previous story with Travis McCready, and you know they want the show to go on. I know he took to his own Facebook yesterday, kind of a interesting post, so I'm really not sure what's going to happen.
All right, Lauren, thank you so much. Appreciate you taking the time. A Washington, D.C. memorial for the men and women killed in the line of duty went virtual, despite challenges from the coronavirus pandemic. Here's Carolyn Myers with more.
Carlos J. Kamen.
One by one, the names of 307 members of law enforcement were read aloud.
From the state of Alabama.
The National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial moved its annual candlelight vigil for officers who lost their lives in the line of duty to the internet, a virtual vigil.
This year's memorial events could not be held on the National Mall.
Aku Cromwell lives in nearby Virginia. He's a former Athens, Georgia police officer. He came to D.C. despite the pandemic to light a real candle of his own on behalf of families from Georgia and Alabama that couldn't be there themselves.
I'm sure that for them it'll be very emotional also not having the opportunity to be here in person.
Cromwell called the families as he arrived so they could feel like they were there.
It meant a lot to us for him to be able to do that.
This year's names were added to the memorial wall in time for the vigil, but no crowds were here to see them. Families who hope to attend the vigil in person tell me it's strange and sad not to be in D.C.
I didn't think it would hit me as hard not being there.
Stacy Allen had her flights and hotel booked to be a part of this year's vigil. She lost her husband, Lieutenant Aaron Allen, with the Southport, Indiana Police Department in July 2017. Stacy says she feels for the families going through this without that in-person support this year.
Being able to honor them, I think, has created a different platform, if you will, to kind of give them that virtual hug.
Reporting in Washington, I'm Kelly Meyer.
Kelly, thanks. That's our show. We'll see you right back here at 11:30 tomorrow.